guys, welcome to my review of issue 6 of Imperium Magazine. I believe this is actually episode 7 because this one's being done out of order. Thanks to, and I'm going to get this right, Dad9456 apparently. I've been advised by Reese that he nicked your copy, which, sorry dude. Hopefully it was a spare copy and not actually your copy that you just randomly stole and sent to me, but I'm keeping it anyway because it's lovely. But yeah, time to review issue 6, I guess, out of order. This one, I'm just going to open it. This one comes with the Aggressors, who are by far my favourite model, and Abaddon Black base. So the Abaddon Black base will be about $2.75, and these are, I had to look up these online because these are not the standard intercessors. They are the easy to build intercessors. The main difference being you only get the flamethrowers. You don't get the other. You don't get the auto bolt things, whose name I've forgotten. It's not the end of the world, but the flamethrowers are slightly short range. I believe in 8th ed they were considered slightly suboptimal. They were the it was the other weapon you wanted to go for, which I think was probably intentional by GW because they were part of the multi-pose £30 kit. These kits I've looked up on most websites and they have them listed as £20 RRP. They're not listed on GW's website. However, most websites are doing them for £16 or £17, meaning you're saving about £8 or £7 and a penny, which is a damn good saving. If they were full price, you'd be saving £11 and a penny. So if we add that to the $2.75, you'd be saving 8, 9, 10, $10.76 or $13.76 respectively, which is not actually, well, which is a fantastic saving really, particularly because this is Abaddon Black and this is one of the colors that you are absolutely going to use all the time. There are a few colors that you can guarantee using, so there's never really a problem getting them. So rather, it's never really a problem getting them. Abaddon Black is one. Obviously your white base coat is another, ceramite white. Usually a solid red, green, blue and yellow tend to be used as well. Actually solid red, green and blue tend to be used heavily. Yellow's a little tricky to paint, so people tend to veer away from it. But red, green, and blue are amazing for pretty much any highlights. And if you get like a solid blue, like McCrag blue, you can use it to color shift most other colors. Wazdaka red. Is Wazdaka red still a thing? Or blood red or dragon red. Again, they're usually good for highlights, like if you want to do tubes or pipes and stuff like that. So yeah, that's a tub of pure win there. And being as that's already covered the costs, yeah, that's basically free. If we check out the plastic, which is the main thing, we've got some fantastic detail on these. These are one of the first sets that came out with the Primaries, even before the £30 box sets. These were available pretty much from the moment Dark Imperium dropped. So they're not the newest of molds, but they are within this generation of molds. There you go. 2017 these came out. That's the copyright. So that's 4 years. What are we, 21? Yeah, that's about 4 years ago. Most of your models 4 years ago, you're not going to be able to tell much of the difference between those models and the models that come out now. They've added some bits, made some decisions about what they're going to do. So it's all pretty cool. As I say, they're really they're wearing the Mark 10 armor, so they're really very, was it Mark 10 Maximus armor, I believe. So they've got that extra bulk. They look like they were meant to be the equivalent of Terminators. They're really not. They're nowhere near as tough or strong as Terminators, particularly now that in issue 9, a lot of the original Space Marines have been brought up to that second wound. So these guys, they're tough, they're badass, they're not Terminators. They can fulfill a similar battle role, but in fact, particularly with the flamethrowers, their battle role is almost like an assault role or a heavy infantry role. They're armed with power fists, as you can kind of see there. So you've got two guys dual wielding flamers and dual wielding power fists with more toughness than a standard Marine. So they're going to run in there. They're going to be able to tank quite a bit of damage. Yeah. If you get these guys on the charge, they are just damage dealing bastards. They're going to run in there. They're going to flamethrower. They're going to charge. They're going to hit with dual power fists. Because we're not working on initiative anymore, but rather you get to activate in turns. If you get the chance to activate these guys first, you are going to mulch most things in front of them. If you're just running a unit of 3, that's nasty. If you're running a unit of 6 or 3 units of 3, or just basically bigger units, and you hit a unit, you can be sure of pretty much mulching most things that you encounter. Their strength gives, their flamethrowers give them a good chance of taking down wounds, particularly because you're not rolling to hit, you're just rolling for flames. So you're just rolling for the damage. With the whole wall of fire thing. And their power fists are going to mean that if they get to activate first, they are going to crush and wound most things, whether you're talking Nurgle troops, big monsters, or a bunch of little monsters. That was my cat. Sorry, cat just ran past. Or even hordes or elite troops. They are going to do a lot of damage for... Just threw the pan off. Look, it's a cat. What are you doing? Anyway, yeah. Either way, they're basically the unit that makes something not be there the next turn, or the next 2 turns, depending on your Jesus Christ. She's just come over, sat on the magazine, and now she's moving the camera with her ass. Sorry, guys. Sorry, he. That's the male cat. We have a male and a female cat. We used to have 2 male cats, but then sadness of a early morning phone call. Anyway, let's get into the magazine. As always, signed by our beloved chapter master Ian. And here we've got Primaries Aggressors. It describes them as fire-spewing titans. Being as with actual titans, we know they're not titans. It's Gravis armor, not Maximus armor. I always get it confused. There we go. We've got a little bit of a spiel, which I shall read in the voice. Clad in bulky Gravis armor, aggressors can soak up all but the heaviest of enemy fire. Though this added protection slows them down, aggressors advance relentlessly, unleashing waves of fire from their flamestorm gauntlets to reduce their foes to smoking piles of ash. Which is pretty cool. You can see the thing there. They've got the Gravis armor, which is the really heavy, chunky armor. They really have this kind of look that they're just going to wade forward through any amount of death. They're classed as fire support, which is kind of like the old heavy support, but not. Most of the Primaris are organized differently, which means if you've been like me, you've been used to playing with specific units in specific ways. For example, I've been used to using Long Fangs, which are an amazing heavy weapon squad, combined with Blood Claws and Grey Hunters. You've got to kind of completely reassess the way you play. There's a certain philosophical similarity to Space Wolves, which is why I like the Primaris, in that each unit has a speciality and works with it. It's probably even more of a culture change for things like Ultramarine players, because Ultramarine players have a lot of tactical options where each of their units is capable of doing a bit of everything. And the Primaris just don't work like that. The Primaris just, they work with each unit has a task, each unit has a speciality, and each unit excels at their speciality. You've got to figure out how to use them together as an army, which is how Space Wolves have worked since, I think, 5th or 6th ed. Then you, when you look at the original, when you look at the original Space Marines, most of them are Codex compliant, which means they'll have things like they'll have a rocket launcher and a bunch of guys with bolt guns. They'll have a heavy weapon squad, which has 4 heavy weapons, but then a bunch of guys with bolt guns. And what that usually means is you end up, because you couldn't split 5 units, you ended up just picking one weapon. You often were wasting points each turn. And it's like, you could fire into a squad of guys with your bolters, and then a rocket would fire in. And yes, that'd do more damage, but it wouldn't be as optimal damage it wouldn't be optimal damage when there was a tank on the field, and you wanted to take out that tank, and your rocket launcher had crack grenades to do that. Las cannons and other weapons were even more specialized in what they did, meaning that you often ended up not quite getting the most bang for your buck out of your weapons. Whereas if they're all on the same thing, you know that every turn you're going to be doing the same thing every turn, and you're going to be using, if you've got them positioned right, you're going to be using them optimally every turn. It's much more how the Primaris work. It's one of the reasons I agree with GW not scrapping the original models, because it allowed people to change over at their own pace and when they felt like it, rather than having to do it all at once. And I know there's some people who ask, why don't they do that? And the answer is simple. They did that with AOS, and people threw their toys out the pram and even scrapped their armies because they didn't work how they knew them, and they felt like they were going back to square one, which I never understand, because square one's almost always the funnest part of learning a game when you're first getting in there. But anyway, I digress. These guys, as I say, they're very specialized. Particularly these guys. It mentions the Bolt Storm Gauntlets. It says aggressors can also be armed with these weapons, which fire volleys of explosive shot. And if you have some extra, for example, you didn't build, if you went for flamers when you bought a £30 kit, then you can equip these up. You might be able to get them off of a parts reseller on eBay, but most likely you'll be stuck with these flamers. I don't know if they're suboptimal in 9th. I know they were suboptimal in 8th, but I didn't care, and I still don't care. They're fire everywhere. Fucking amazing. Anyway, we've got another battle record thing. Like I said, I'm really loving these. You've got specialisms, name charts, all cool stuff. Lots of cool things. I do like this one. Tally every unit your aggressors have destroyed. Unless you're dealing with incredibly tough or incredibly larger units, you are going to be wiping out units. You're going to be flaming into them with basically 6 flamers, rolling D3 for each of those flamers, charging them and punching them with however many attacks aggressors have. I suspect it's either 2 or 3. I think it's 2 for the standard and 3 for the sergeant. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 attacks. That is a lot of death to be throwing at any unit. most units are just going to get fucking killed by that. You know, your Imperial Guard, your Chaos Space Marines, if you get the charge, if you get your aggressive units in at full strength, you get the flame, you get the charge, you're going to really fucking hurt people. And that's just beautiful. They've called it a specialism. I'm pretty sure the word is specialization. I don't think specialism is a word. Maybe I'm wrong. Let me know if I'm wrong in the comments. Is specialism a word? Next page is Necron Nobles. Imperious and arrogant and power-hungry, Necron Nobles seek to restore their dynasties to their former glory. They lead the Necron phalanxes to war, directing vast armies of mindless Necron warriors. That's a bit like Fran Parker Saturday. And canoptic constructs who follow their orders without question. That's really fucking cool. You've got a nice description of the Necron warriors there, which I'm not going to spoil for you. Then it goes on to describe the nobles at war. The Pharaons, they're the rulers of the Necron galaxies. The Overlords and Lords, they're the most powerful nobles who fight for the Pharaons. And then you've got the Royal Wardens, who are unquestioningly loyal to their superiors, and they lack the strategic genius. They're basically sergeants. They haven't got as much programming and sense of self left as the Necrons, which kind of goes to show the Necrons don't understand what a sergeant actually is. If you're in the army and your sergeant is less smart than your officer, you run away. Or at least, you be concerned, because your sergeant is the guy that is often going to be making a lot of your day-to-day decisions. So he needs to be at least as smart as your officer to understand what your officer's telling you. Well, at least that's what I've been told. That could be a lie. Maybe there are dumb sergeants out there. I doubt it. And then we move on to the how to build. Obviously, the clipper safety. I saw a guy slip once, clip and cleave his arm clean off, and then accidentally slip back and completely decapitate himself. That might never have happened. So, these guys are push fit. I sometimes find it worthwhile just trimming the plugs a little bit if they're too long. And just trying them out first. If you want to dry fit them, if you want to see if there's any wiggle. If you put them together without glue, you can pop them back apart. You have to get a little knife in the gap or something, and you can damage the model that way. So it's entirely up to you. I also find that if you put them in without glue, it's actually a lot more difficult to get them in. The polystyrene cement, which softens up the outside edge of the plugs, actually makes them easier to assemble. But obviously, I find sometimes the plugs can be a little bit long or almost exactly at length. So I find clipping them down just like maybe a millimeter allows you to get the model together perfectly. Which I'm sure I could get the model together without doing that, but I just find it makes it easier. But again, as you can see, these ones only go together one way. There's no spare parts they're showing you. So they're fairly easy to assemble as long as you keep a track of the numbers. If you've lost track of the numbers, that's probably when you want to dry fit and take them back apart. Next, we've got painting. And so again, all the simple stuff. Paint them blue because we all love Ultramarines. Paint them silver because metal is cool. Paint them black because you've got Abaddon Black. So it's all really pretty funkalicious. It's also got some descriptions so you can go and back paint. Obviously, we're doing the same as the previous magazines have done, which is they're giving you paint a bit at a time, and every time you get a new paint that they think you should use in a certain area, they'll let you know where they think you should use it. Obviously, none of these rules are hard and fast. They're suggesting painting over the bolters black. I personally prefer to paint them different colours. Sometimes red, sometimes grey, sometimes black. Actually, I think my current guys are actually using black bolters, but it's all pretty cool. I mean, personally, with a metal, I like to paint it, dry brush it, so I get a nice looking metal, and then paint black and highlight the black, which is not what they've done here, but there's no wrong way to do it, whatever makes you happy. Now we've got the fire support mission, which is another nice mission. We're using the Royal Warden and the Primaries Aggressors. We've got the Royal Warden and the 3 Scorpec Destroyers versus the Primaries Aggressors, which gives you an idea that how quite tough the aggressors are, because they're expected to be able to tank these guys. But also notice where the scenery is. The aggressors have a little more scenery. Maybe that will affect them. Now we've got the rules for the aggressors. And here's where we can kind of see the difference. The Firestorm Gauntlets give you a 12-inch range. And that's it. You know, there's no tablet, there's no templates anymore or anything like that. You get a 12-inch range. Assault 2d6. And obviously that's for the two. That is a combined stats for both the gauntlets. But you've basically got a weapon skill of 3, wounds 3. Oh, do you have to actually roll to hit now, Flamers? Oh no, you don't yet. You've got a weapon skill, but it actually doesn't count for this unit. You've got a movement of 5, which is slightly slower than your other Marines who have a movement of 6, and slightly slower than the Royal Warden who has a movement of 6, and the Scorpec Destroyers with their movement of 8. You got 3 wounds each, which still makes them quite tough. 3 attacks and a 3+ save, which is nasty. So you've got, at 12 inches, you get to make 3 attacks of 2d6. So each model was rolling 66 dice. There's no extra AP because it's fire, but that's a lot of dice. And if you imagine that going against a unit with weak armor, that is very nasty. It doesn't have a toughness factor here. The save is 3+, but then again, the saves are mostly 3+. I would imagine the toughness factor will be found elsewhere, simply because these guys are usually tougher. With strength versus toughness, it's a bit weird. They've got a weapon skill of hand-to-hand combat, but they don't have a toughness for the hand-to-hand to beat, which we found in last week's issue was a thing. I don't think they're expecting you to get toughness. But yeah, in melee, you've got, it just says Farsome Gauntlets melee. Oh no, of course, yes, you don't assault 3d6. I'm misreading that from old rules, sorry. You've got assault 2d6, and then your attacks are for melee only. So you get 3 melee attacks. So you just roll 2d6 dice for each guy. That's still a lot of dice. That's still potentially 32 wounds for a strong unit. I was making them well better than they actually are. Yeah, and then you get 3 attacks in melee with a 3+ to hit and a -3 AP. So you're going to be mulching through. Yeah, these guys might as well not have armor. They're not going to make saves at -3. So they're pretty hench. Their toughness, their save is 3. As I say, I recall their toughness being 5 in the previous edition. They haven't given a toughness factor for the aggressors here, which is weird because they haven't given them a weapon skill. But if their toughness isn't increased, then their save's pretty rubbish. And at the bottom, it also does say abilities: Flamestorm Gauntlets. Shooting attacks from this weapon automatically hit. So you don't have to roll to hit. You're just rolling to see how many wounds you do on 2d6. So the minimum is 2, the maximum is 12, giving you a minimum of 6 wounds on a unit and a maximum of 32. The strength is... There isn't a strength. Yeah, the AP is 0, so it doesn't affect your saves. It doesn't affect the opponent's saves, but you are going to get some wounds out of that. And then because they're assault, you can then slam straight into them, and that's nasty. It's got how to check range. So you can check range with your rulers. I'm not sure how they had us checking range otherwise. They're also running with the advanced move. The advanced move the model, move +1 dice. It cannot charge later this turn. So that's advanced, which is standard advance. Used to be called run in the previous editions, but basically you can you move your 5 inches. You can roll an additional dice to move potentially another 6 inches, and that's pretty cool. It's worth doing if you think the enemy's not going to be within charge range of you in their turn. Otherwise, you just run into getting attacked. With flamethrowers, it's not bad getting charged at, because again, you don't have to roll to hit. Because there's no weapon skill, you don't have to worry about Overwatch fire missing on anything but a 6. You just do damage. It does make them good line holders, and it does make them good at defending decent positions. If you add that to dumping them behind cover, and as I say, I believe they've got extra toughness, then you've got something quite cool. Okay, inside of the back page, same old thing. Go down your local FLGS, go down your local Warhammer store, meet the people. Look online. There is a ton of additional value for money content, with additional content which increases the value for money you pay for these guys by giving you cooler stuff and cool ideas you can do with them. And there's loads of other stuff to do. Let's have a look. Okay, next week it's going to be paints. Woo! Again, you've got Mechanica Standard Grey, which is always useful. Corax base Corax White, which again, you can't go without. You can't do bad with a white. And base Retributor armor, which is always useful as well. It's a nice solid gold. Always looks good on models. Next, we've got a Necron Overlord. Like I say, he's kind of like a captain, or a lieutenant level commander, depending whether you play him as a lord or an overlord. He's got his balls out in his hand and a giant scythe thing. They're pretty cool as well. If you look at the magazines, you've got Learn About Iridominus, Follow Detailed Painting Guide, Battle with Your Painted Models, and of course that's 3-7, which we already had. I don't know what I'm saying next week. If you're watching this in order, this is going to be the next video. If you're watching this in chronological order, because this didn't arrive on the week it was supposed to, I've already done that video, and feel free to watch it first or whatever. It doesn't make a difference. But in actual next week, or if you're watching them in order the week after next, by the magic of the interwebs, is going to be issue 8, which is a villainous Necron Overlord. I think it's a bit judgmental. Name and customize your Necron Noble and paint your Necron collection. So that's 2 weeks of stuff to look forward to. Obviously, there isn't a prize this week because last week was a bunch of paints, and this week is a Space Marine. There will be a prize next week because issue 8 will have the Necron Overlord, which I'll give out to you guys, because again, I don't use it. And then and I will see you. I think the week after that's also Necron as well. I think there's quite a lot of Necron coming up, so there's gonna be quite a lot of prizes given out. I will see you guys next week or the week after next, depending on which order you're watching these videos in. Again, big thanks to Dad9456.